Within the last hour, U.S. President Donald Trump has criticized France for pledging to recognize a Palestinian state. Speaking after landing in Scotland for a 5-day trip, Trump also criticized Hamas's position for the recall of U.S. and Israeli negotiators from ceasefire negotiations.
I think it's terrible what happened with Hamas. They tapped everybody along, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what response Israel has to that. But it's getting to be that time.
All right, let's go live now to Jonah Hull in the village of Turnberry on Scotland's west coast. Jonah, so what more did we hear from U.S. President Trump as he got off Air Force One?
Well, he stepped off that plane on this visit to Scotland for the weekend, really in the midst of two enormous swirling news stories swirling around him. One was Gaza, the unfolding mass starvation happening in Gaza and the apparent breakdown of ceasefire talks there. And the other, of course, revelation after revelation about his ties with the late convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Both of those stories could have intruded at any moment into this essentially private trip. Well, they've made an appearance as he stepped onto the tarmac. Those comments on Gaza were followed by Donald Trump being asked about the questioning of Ghislaine Maxwell, the former girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein, by the Deputy Attorney General, pressing her for more information on the likes of a client list that Jeffrey Epstein may have had, and questions of whether Donald Trump's name might appear in it. His comments, he had nothing to say about that. He said, I haven't been following it. He said, this is not a time to be talking about a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, as some have been speculating. The media, he said, was making a big thing that is not a big thing about something that is not a big thing. He said, if you're looking for big names, look to President Clinton. Don't look to President Trump. There were words about a possible trade deal to be struck with the European Union during the course of this weekend. He put the chances of that at 50-50. There were warm words for Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who he'll be meeting on this trip. He's done this before. He's said the likes of this before. I like him. He's more liberal than I am, but we did a great trade deal together. And then there were sort of sweeping comments for the UK and Europe all together. Stop the windmills. They're destroying your countries, he said, and get a grip on immigration or there'll be no Europe left.
And Jonah, Trump is scheduled to be in Scotland for 5 days. What's on his agenda?
A lot of golfing, I suspect. He's visiting Turnberry behind me, where he will be arriving very shortly, in fact. And then a few days later, he'll be heading off to the east coast to his other golf resort in Aberdeenshire, where he'll be opening a new golf course there. There is some business tied into this as well. Of course, he's said to be meeting Ursula von der Leyen, the EU Commission President, on Sunday, as I said, about the possibility of an EU-US trade deal. He wasn't all that optimistic, but some sources suggest they are closer than the 50-50 that Trump suggested. He's meeting Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, partly on a sort of private social level, partly, though, to try and refine and improve the terms of a trade deal they have struck in framework form at this point, trying to lower the numbers, particularly on steel and aluminium. And he'll meet the Scottish First Minister, John Swinney, the leader of the Scottish National Party. Here, Mr Swinney has already said that top of his agenda will be to point out to Donald Trump the unimaginable suffering of the people of Gaza and to urge him to do all he can to bring it to an end.
All right, that's Al Jazeera's Jonah Hull reporting live for us from the village of Turnberry on Scotland's west coast. Thanks so much, Jonah.